Hi friends, welcome back to another Draw With Me video. It's freezing in my house, so I have the heat turned on high and I have my heated blanket under my butt, so it's a pretty nice setup. Pretty relaxing. I want to say good morning. It's not even morning for me. It's probably not morning for you, so hi. Today I'm studying JC Leyendecker. Seems to be the most popular study going around right now, at least on TikTok. This is kind of a long video. I think it's around 2 hours, so thanks for sticking around. I drew about 3 of his pieces, and I'll show each one as I work on them. Right now I'm working on his oddly homoerotic piece. Not oddly, I found out last night, that he was actually gay, so my gaydar was phenomenally accurate for this one. I knew it was homo when I saw it. It was very, what's the word? It was very sexual, for lack of a better word. Who knew lighting a cigarette could be sexual? Anyways. I struggled a lot with this study. I think the entire spread took me about 4 or 5 hours. It was hard. I don't study often. I think this is my first time studying an artist by directly copying their art in a long time, in maybe 10 years. I have done an art study before of Kelsey Beckett, the oil painter, but that was mostly taking aspects of her style and placing it onto my own art. This time I was trying to redraw the art itself to try and learn from it, and I learned a lot. I also learned that it is not my strong suit, and there's plenty of anatomy that I need to focus on this year. So I wanted this to be kind of a real-time video, or as real-time as I can get it without it being 6 hours long. I wish I could draw faster, but for now, the speed I have is pretty slow. And I managed to keep the speed around 1.5 speed, so it's almost real-time, but I really wanted to keep it a manageable length of video, under 2 hours, so that's why it's a little faster than you would expect. But this is still pretty much all the footage. I cut out a little bit of dead air and some time when I was just looking at the drawing or taking a drink or something like that, but other than that, pretty much all of my drawing process is on here, and you can watch me struggle over and over and over and over again. I think the hardest part of these studies was the portraits for some reason. It was learning the side view, the way that he chose to draw side perspectives of his faces. It was a really huge struggle for me. I draw mostly anime art, so these more semi-realistic side profiles were extremely difficult for me to learn, and I tried to kind of force my way through it and brunt force it instead of trying to come up with some sort of guide or some foundation that I could work off of, more than just the regular half circle guidelines. I think I should have maybe tried to add some more foundations to get the measurements down correctly before just drawing it straight on, but nope, I wanted to do this the hard way, so I just tried to draw it straight from looking at it, which was extremely difficult, as you'll see in this video. Every single portrait that I did, I redrew over and over and over again trying to get it right, but I think the end result was pretty good. I've really been enjoying making these Draw With Me videos, and I wouldn't be surprised or upset if that was a pretty big majority of my content this year. You guys seem to like it as well, based on the statistics and the comments that I've been seeing. Thank you so much for your support on the Claudine video, by the way. That was the last Draw With Me video that I made. It was such a struggle learning how to use Procreate for a finalized piece. It's a headache every time. But you guys really liked the piece. You also really liked it on Instagram when I posted it yesterday, so thank you guys so much for all the support on that. And it seems like you guys really enjoy the Draw With Me talking to you type video, so I planned it out. I planned out what I wanted to talk about this time. This is a huge video, and I really wanted to fill it up with my voice. Hopefully you don't get tired of hearing me talk, but I came up with a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk to you guys about because whenever I try to record myself and talk to a camera or a microphone, it's like my brain shuts off. I don't know if that's because I'm ADHD or autistic or gay or tired or I'm just not good at this yet. I want it to be because I'm not good at it yet, because it means that I can get a lot better. But it's like my brain just like turns off and I have such a hard time thinking of what I want to say. I also don't want to fill up this video with a ton of like likes, dead air, me taking forever to get to my point. I really want to just be able to concisely say what I want to say, but still have a relaxing vibe, or at least an inspirational vibe, just something that people can ambiently listen to in the background. So yeah, I always love feedback and I love hearing what you guys think about it, what you like and what you don't like. So as always, just let me know how you feel about this video. I know we're just getting started, but let's just get that out of the way right now. I would love to know what you guys like about it. So if any of you don't know who JC Leyendecker is, not a problem. I don't really know who he is either. If you look up his art online, I think you might recognize some of it. He was a really influential artist in the late 1800s and early 1900s, and he was gay, as I mentioned earlier, which is like so awesome. I don't think people talk about that very much, but that's like really cool. And he makes beautiful artwork. I was vaguely familiar with his art, but just didn't put a name to it until he became really trendy on TikTok lately. And I don't want to sit here and say that this video was inspired by a TikTok trend, but it hurts that I have to admit that it probably was. I had originally had a whole other idea for this video for a study. I still wanted to do a draw with me study exactly like this, just with a different method and a different artist. And I could not for the life of me find the source content that had inspired it. I spent hours looking for it while planning out this video and I just couldn't find it anywhere. It was this, but using grid lines to redraw like a Greek artist's work, like from his sketchbooks, like redrawing the details exactly in each grid box. And I tried so hard to find it online, and I was only finding, you know, like how to draw using grid lines, how to create the foundations of anatomy using grid lines, or how to use realism techniques in your artwork by redrawing each thing square by square. And none of those were what I was looking for. So if by any chance any of you know what I'm talking about, please let me know. It's kind of a long shot. All I know is there was a name for it. I don't know what the name is, obviously. And it was a popular but like really hated art technique and assignment used in like art classes for art majors at universities. That's all I know about it. Maybe that will help. Please, somebody, please. Does anybody know? Because I would still really love to do those kind of studies. Anyways, when I was doing the research for him very quickly before filming, I noticed a lot of similarities in our styles. Not blatant similarities, but enough in the way that he did his line art or the styles and edges that he chose to emphasize. I saw enough similarities in that it immediately inspired me to draw him, and so it was not a big deal at all to draw him, or not to draw him, but to draw his art. I saw a lot of similarities in how sharp some of his line art was, as well as the dynamic nature of his poses and the sharp shapes that he chose to emphasize in his art. I get a lot of inspiration from that as well, and try to have that in my art pieces when I'm creating. And so it was not even a big deal for me to gain so much inspiration from him and try to learn his art. I would love to do more studies of his artwork. There was just so many pieces that I really wanted to draw, but I had to choose only a few, and I wish I could have drawn more, but each piece took about a half hour for me to finish, and that was me rushing to to try and get everything done so that this video wasn't like 3 hours long, or I didn't have to like speed it up too much. But I think in the future I should try studying elements from each piece. I think that's like the whole point of studying. I think I just kind of like goofed that one. But it's kind of nice to like look at a whole piece. I feel like I would get bored redrawing the same jacket or hands over and over and over again, even though that's what studies are. Maybe I should be doing that. I don't know. Whatever I was supposed to be doing, what I did do was really fun, despite how long it took, and I learned a lot. And I would like to share some of the things I learned if watching it isn't transparent enough. A big technique that I've been using for digital art, but not so much traditional art, is shaping my lines by using an eraser. That sounds so stupid to say out loud. In digital art, I think it makes a lot more sense intuitively. I block in big shapes and then I erase around it with an eraser tool, and then, you know, build back up and then erase back down until I get to a point that I really enjoy with digital art, for line art or blocking in shapes or anything like that. But I had never tried using that for traditional art. I don't know, I guess maybe the nature of the pencils makes it easier so that you can just erase and re-erase with not a lot of issues. But for other mediums like colored pencils or markers, you really can't shape using an eraser. But for this study and the medium that I was using, it was super easy to just erase and start over, and it really helped me to figure out the shapes that I wanted and get closer to what Leyendecker had imagined. That's kind of like an obvious technique that I think all digital artists are like rolling their eyes at me for right now. But hey, we all learn somewhere. We all gotta start somewhere. Another technique I used, which is another one that you guys are gonna make fun of me for, is rubbing and smearing the graphite with my fingers. Oh my god, I know all of you guys are just saying blending stump right now. I know I'm supposed to have a blending stump, but listen, I don't have a good excuse. It's just the way I am, okay? I am a mechanical pencil girl. I don't use graphite, and I am not very good at like learning how to use different types of pencils and all. I don't know. I like using the mechanical pencils to sketch out a shape and then move forward with like inking or some other medium that isn't pencil. So I don't have a lot of experience with like just focusing on like a pencil study. I'm doing my best, okay? But smearing it with my fingers was a great way for me to get some quick skin blending done. In particular, Leyendecker specifically has a lot of blending with his skin and with his clothes, which I think is a really symbolic measure of like the oil medium. There's like a ton of blending involved with oil itself. I think that's kind of like built into the medium. And so trying to recreate that with a totally different medium was challenging, to say the least. Though I think a pencil drawing might be a really good substitute for an oil drawing. You can get a lot of that blending done that is pretty easy with oil, I imagine, and still have that versatility with color values, all while using one pencil, one tool. So those were two big techniques that I learned in this study. I don't know if I necessarily learned, but it was more messing up a lot and wondering why my line art was so heavy-handed and why I wasn't getting the colors in correctly, and then just smearing it with my finger and being amazed that that just like wonderfully fixed the issue that I've been having this whole time. So hopefully that'll make future studies a little bit easier on me. Earlier I mentioned that I'd never really done like studies before, and that's true that I had never really taken art and just redrawn it. I guess tracing with my eyes instead of with like drawing over a paper, just like looking at something and then exactly copying that on a piece of paper. Oh god, I haven't done that since like 2015, 2014, 2012, early 2010s, very, very early 2010s. I think 2015 was one of the last times that I actually did that and started drawing my own art. And of course, when I'm using references, I am kind of doing that same thing, but in my mind, I don't see it as like copying or tracing because I'm using it as a reference as part of like a whole piece. So I'll be like looking at a pair of shoes in a specific angle and using my eyes to copy that directly onto my page, but mostly so I can get the anatomy down and make sure that the shoes look right. I think that's what you should be doing as an artist. But I hadn't just taken somebody's art and redrew it in a piece of paper for my own studying in almost 10 years. It's been so long. I used to redraw a lot of manga panels and just random like furry artwork that I would find online. Just like the stupid stuff that you would do as like a 12-year-old, you know? But it had been so long since I had done a study like this. It's nice to kind of just turn off your brain and just copy. Okay, like tracing like this definitely brings its own issues, trying to recreate somebody else's style, knowing that because you hadn't built that style yourself, it's never going to look exactly the same, no matter how hard you try. Those struggles aside, it is nice to just turn your brain off and kind of just learn autonomously like this. Learn with my hands instead of my brain. Not having to like remember color theory or remember that arms are supposed to do this, or to keep something like this in mind when I'm creating something out of my own brain. It's nice to just like turn it off and copy somebody else. Let their work speak for itself in my study. So it was really refreshing to do that. I had mentioned earlier about the Kelsey Beckett style study that I had done late last year in 2022. But other than that, I think most of the studies that I've done have been like anatomy studies, mostly hands, sometimes eyes, ears, feet if I really want to be in a bad mood that day. But studies are so frustrating. I know that's not just me either. I don't even have to ask. They're just something about it is just, something about learning like that is just so irritating to me. It's like a necessary evil as an artist, because you end up loving your art so much more after the study. I mean, if I hadn't done the hand studies that I had done in the summer of 2022, maybe the hands that I had drawn here I wouldn't have liked as much. Even though I really struggled with the hands now, maybe I would have struggled more if I hadn't done those studies earlier. So, you know, those studies are like a necessary evil for an artist. But even so, it had been a while since I had done a study like this. It's kind of refreshing to think back on tracing as a kid and see how far I've come personally. I wonder how many of you guys have traced or done the type of tracing that I'm describing when you were first learning how to draw. I mean, how else can you draw? I think for someone like me who's been self-taught, didn't have any classes to teach me the fundamentals of like lighting or color or shapes, that was really some of my only tools that I had was, yes, getting those how-to draw books that never helped. You know, they draw out the fundamentals and then one step later it's a completely finished drawing and they don't describe what you're supposed to do to get to that point. You're kind of just left to copy it, essentially. It's like they encourage it. But it, as taboo as that might be, it genuinely got me to where I am today as an artist. And it's just nice to look back and see where I've grown since the last time I've done something like this. The last time I remembered tracing like this, I was smearing a ballpoint pen over notebook paper or whatever printer paper I could steal from school. And I had, you know, if I was lucky, a Ticonderoga, but usually just a generic number 2 pencil, which is so painful to draw with as an artist. Once I went to mechanical pencils, I never went back. It just, wood pencils, I don't know, maybe that's why I don't stick with graphite, because it's just, I'm so scarred from those number 2 pencils. Once you draw anything with them, it's impossible to erase it. And don't even get me started on college ruled notebook paper. That is just a nightmare for anybody who's a heavy-handed drawer like me. Did I really just say drawer right now? You guys, I'm sorry. I'm sleepy. I still haven't had any caffeine today. Anyways, for an artist like me that refuses to draw lightly and just has to draw everything at 100% for some reason, it was a nightmare to draw like that. And all of my drawings just looked so messy. You would always have that pencil under sketch no matter how hard I erased. The more you erase, the more you rip the paper, and the paper looks lighter. It's just a total mess. And it's just so refreshing to see this drawing and watch it back while I'm talking to you guys. Even through all of the struggles that I faced. All of the many difficulties and frustrations that I felt while drawing this piece. Like, I'm redrawing the hand right now, so frustrated at how bad it looks. It is still so much of a difference compared to 10 years ago. It should be so much of a difference. But it is a little refreshing to see that. I'm kind of rambling and going around in circles with my thoughts. And I'm also, just like trailing off and going on different tangents and stuff. Personally, if I was thinking in the shoes of somebody who's watching this video right now, maybe they just have it like in the window while they're working on a school assignment, or maybe they're not even looking at the screen, they're just drawing their own thing and listening to me. I'm so sorry for all of the rambling. But to be honest, maybe we would want that as like a viewer. It's kind of nice to just listen to somebody else trail off a bunch and fumble around and whatever. So maybe this beats like 2 hours of just music, just copyright-free music. I'll try to keep it entertaining as we keep going. So I see I'm finally getting the hang of what this arm should look like. I will say, male forearms, that's weirdly specific. Male forearms are so hard for me. I love drawing them though. It's so funny how like muscles and forearms work. Because, everybody talks about the biceps and the triceps and the delts and the neck muscles, but I don't hear anybody talking about forearm muscles. That is so sexy. Is that just me? Like, that's how I knew while I was drawing this one that Leyendecker was gay. Like, without even knowing he was gay, was looking at the forearms and the way he chose to draw that hand. Like, if I haven't shown it on the screen, like what the original piece looks like, I should show it here. It is like downright sexy. It's criminal how like sensual that forearm is. Maybe that's just me. Oh my god, I cannot be talking like this on a YouTube video. Anyways, I really like drawing male forearms. But they don't like me drawing them. They don't like it when I draw them. I want to draw them really well, but I just have to sit there and keep redrawing it over and over and over again, because it's like something about the way the muscle flares out before the elbow on both sides. It's so hard. And then you have to balance it out with the wrist. Like, I don't want to give him a little twink wrist, because he wasn't built that way in the original art. And you can tell when you don't know how to draw wrists, because it just doesn't match the forearms or the hands. So even now when I look at this wrist, I'm like, there's something wrong with it, but it's okay. I think the forearm came out fine enough. And you know what? That's another thing I learned while drawing this. Shading can help hide so many issues with your art. Once I started adding that forearm shading and the hand shading, just like random hatching to try to make it look vaguely hand-shaped, it looks 10 times better. I don't know. Secret hack. Anyways, all of that aside, the next thing I wanted to talk about was my issues and goals with time management specifically. Let me back up. Okay, I was gonna say now that I'm on YouTube, but let me back up. I have had time management issues my entire life. I'm confident and positive that I'm not the only one. especially since if I'm not the only person with ADHD watching this, I'm definitely not the only person with time management issues watching this. Yes, I'm looking at you too. It takes me so much longer than I prefer to make any drawing ever, like any single one. And I know it's because I don't draw enough. I had a summer in 2016 that I'm constantly looking at as like my magnum opus of drawing creation to this very day, like years later. I should have a more recent year to look back on, but in 2016 I was super depressed. I pretty much stayed at my desk inside all summer. The second school got out. At the time in 2016, I think it was the summer after my freshman year. Well, I was 15 that summer, or I had just turned 15, maybe? I don't know. I want to say it was either the summer after my freshman year or the summer after my sophomore year. And I was just drawing like a maniac. I was so depressed. I didn't leave my room. I woke up at 9 a.m. and I drew and I drew and I drew until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. I would have my little trinkets and hobbies mixed in there. Like, I would eat a ham sandwich at 12, and I would drink huge cups of coffee, and I would go on Tumblr, because back then, that's what we did in 2016, was we used Tumblr. And I would go on Vine, because that was the last year of Vine. And, or maybe Vine had just ended. I don't even remember. But I was constantly pumping out new artwork. In my sketchbook tour, I had shown my sketchbook from that time, and I think I had managed to finish a whole sketchbook in that one summer. And maybe for a lot of you, that's your typical summer. But for me, I have never been able to reach those heights of drawing production since. I found the most growth in my art style that year. Obviously, I mean, the quantity has been unmatched. That was the only year that I managed to complete Inktober from start to finish. And the sketchbooks were just crazy. I was constantly drawing warm-ups, constantly drawing new pieces for people. It was absolutely insane. But since then, I've had to do some like adult things, like, going to a job and cleaning and having college, or having to pay bills, or having to spend time with friends instead of being on Tumblr. All of those things add up, and you get tired. So it becomes more and more difficult to keep up that insane routine of art production just every single day. And on top of that, you have the regular wear and tear of being an artist anyways, like carpal tunnel, bad back pain, your eyes hurt, you're tired. I mean, it's so mentally exhausting to be an artist. And it's physically exhausting too. We sit in a chair all day. For most of us who are like 2D artists, we sit in a chair. And that can be physically taxing. Say what you want about sitting at a desk all day, but that shit hurts. like, is that just me? Anyways, it's hard. And right now I'm working a job to pay bills, and I'm also doing YouTube, and I'm not gonna lie, YouTube has made drawing so much easier for me. It's kind of like given a burden off of my back. In 2022, I spent a lot of that year, if not the entire year, having a really messed up work-life balance. It was the best it had been in years, especially since the pandemic started, but it was so mentally taxing. And I was focusing a lot on growing on social media. I was focusing a lot on my market experience and getting out to all of those pop-ups and markets and conventions. I was also working my job to pay bills. I lived with my partner. Well, why am I saying lived? I live with my partner. In 2022, I also lived with my partner. We lived in the same place. And it was just a lot. I was constantly working. I think I was working from 9 a.m. to, 9 or 10 p.m. every single day during the week. And then if we were lucky, we wouldn't have a market, but unfortunately, most of the time we had markets over the weekend, so we were driving, getting up at 5 a.m. on Saturdays, coming home at midnight on Sunday. It was just a very, very unstructured or maybe overly structured, just a very extremely fatiguing year for my art business. And so my time management was just not there. I literally could not have time or energy for art creation. And I saw this Tumblr post, of course Tumblr, when I used it, that I always think about for artists. And it's, you have 3 things to choose from, but you can only pick 2 as an artist. You have time, energy, and motivation. So you can either have time and energy, but no motivation, energy and motivation, but no time, or time and motivation, but no energy. God, is that not, like, so true for everything and everybody? This just gets more relatable the older I get. I sound so old right now. Anyways, I was spending a lot of time making products for markets or maintaining those products, making products for consignment and wholesale, which is its own thing, and trying to create content for social media, which are 2 different types of, like, products. I can't really post the prints that I'm working on for my markets on social media because people aren't really interested in being sold to constantly, that's a huge turnoff. And at the same time, I don't really want to sell the sketches that I made for TikTok at a convention because people don't really care what type of filter generator character that I made. So it was hard to juggle all of that. It was like I was working 4 different full-time jobs. My time management was just horrible. I didn't have the physical, let alone the mental energy to be present in anything that I was doing. Not a single thing that I did in 2022 I was able to completely focus on. So I was taking away from every single thing by trying to do everything at once. And that's not even getting into creating art. I have a piece that I finished for my art exhibit. I brought it up a little bit in my exhibit wireframing video, which is the video before this one. That one took me 8 months to finish. It was pretty much the only personal piece that I was able to work on. And as a matter of fact, that was one of the first personal pieces that I'd been able to work on in years. It was really tough, and I finally finished it the first day of this year, January 1st, 2023, and I think it shows in how my time management has changed over the past few months. Honestly, ever since I was hacked and I lost most of my social media presence, it has been a huge blessing in disguise. I'm not spending at least 20 hours a week like I was working on content. Instead, I'm focusing on my art and making content out of that I would be trying to do anyways. And I still feel just as productive and even more fulfilled doing this. I'm not even going to pretend like my time management is close to good yet, but I'm not like burning out every weekend anymore. And being on YouTube, even though I've only been on here for maybe 2 months at this point, has just been so relaxing. For lack of a better word. Like, it's so relaxing. I mean, I hate editing. Right now, I've got most of... Like, when I do... Okay, I gotta back up. When I do these Draw With Me videos, those are, like, my favorite videos to do edit-wise because I can kind of just, like, talk like this and then call it work. And then just, like, trim up a couple things and then add some music and then call it a day. When I'm doing something like the wire hanging video or, like, the interview video that I did a couple weeks ago, those are infinitely more exhausting to do editing-wise, but I'm not draining my creativity or, like, my mental exhaustion with with trying to come up with a new piece for you guys. So it's kind of nice to have like that balance. I'm not constantly trying to come up with new products, which would be too overwhelming for me. I'm not constantly trying to pump out new pieces, which would just take way too long and be way too draining for me. And I'm also not trying to create content all of the time like I was with Instagram and TikTok. I can just draw sometimes, do an interview sometimes, teach you guys some of the things that I've picked up along the years, and then take another break with drawing a little bit more. And then do these studies like this, which I don't get any immediate, it doesn't have like an immediate market need for it. You know, I don't have to worry about it not performing well with the TikTok algorithm. And I don't have to worry about trying to sell it at a market. I can just draw and learn and film it and share it, and it's just so much easier. And I think it's easier on you guys too. I think the majority of you guys are brand new people who just met me less than 2 months ago. But for the handful of you that knew me from Instagram or TikTok, or have been keeping up with my stuff over the past year or 2 years, however long, I'm sure it must be more relaxing to have this form of content. I feel more genuine, I feel more relaxed, I feel like I can dedicate more time to it. Before I was posting 2 TikToks a day, 5 times a week, 3 to 5 reels a week, 2 to 3 posts a week on Instagram. I was doing 3 posts a day on Pinterest. It was absolutely insane. Just for content, it took me 20 to 25 hours a week to do that. And I mean, if that's the amount of time I have outside of my job to work on my business, then I'm not putting anything into my artwork at all. And with this method, I'm taking a huge break from Instagram and TikTok. I mean, you guys have been so supportive on Instagram, and it's been so much more fulfilling than it was to have a huge account on Instagram and just be so focused on the content and the analytics that I couldn't really engage with you. And that's all I really wanted. That's the whole reason why I'm on here, YouTube. That's the whole reason why I have an art business in the first place, was so that I can talk to you specifically. Yes, I'm looking at you specifically. Anyways, I want to take a break from all of this silly little adult talk and talk a little bit more, bring us back to the drawing itself before I get lost again. So we can see that I finished the extremely homoerotic piece, and now I'm moving on to a tennis player piece. Hopefully I can remember to edit in the original piece here. Again, I thought that the first one was hard. When I got to this one, I think this was the hardest piece for me to study, which is so weird because I only draw anime girls. So to me, I was thinking, finally a woman. I need to draw a woman and get away from these manly, masculine silhouettes because I'm comfortable with women. No! Leyendecker has very masculine shapes and curves and sharpness, even in his feminine pieces. I can't escape this. And again, the side profile with the nose, extremely difficult for me. I was having such a hard time figuring out the proportions and the anatomy of the face. It just kept looking wrong to me. Even as I look back on this, I'm like, it's wrong. Nope, you did it wrong again. Nope, that's not it either. No. And it was very frustrating at the time. I was ultimately happy with it, but I mean, you probably noticed that I erased the entire foundation that I drew in favor of drawing mostly just the head. That was mostly accidental. For some reason, when I'm tracing, I have a really hard time keeping the anatomy at the size I want. I don't know how to unpack that and unlearn that, but I always end up drawing the head much larger than the rest of the body. And so I end up having to like redraw the rest of the body to go with the size of the head that I'm suddenly now drawing. Kind of frustrating if I'm trying to draw like a whole piece. Not so much frustrating if I'm doing a study, but I would have liked to have had her whole upper body in this study, but at some point I realized Like, I finally am at a good stopping place with this side portrait, and if I erase it to try to get the head back to the size that it was when I first drew it, I'm never going to recreate that, and I'm going to add on another half an hour to this video at least. So I just went with it and kept going. I think in the future I'll try to focus on studying accurate, like, sizes and sticking with the proportions and sizes that I had decided I wanted for that piece of paper. Do you get what I'm saying? Even with the guy with a cigarette, the head ended up being way bigger than it was when I first started sketching out the rough idea. I don't know how to fix that. I think maybe, I don't know. I think if I had changed my foundation, instead of just drawing a spherical head, maybe if I had focused on anatomy with planes, like I've been seeing online, instead of just using a general oval with guidelines, maybe if I had used planes with boxes, it would have been much easier for me to learn the correct sizing and proportions for her body. But yeah, that's where we're at now. This one was still really fun. I really enjoyed drawing the hair. At this point, I realized that the first drawing had taken me like an hour at least, and I really need to speed it up. And so the hair was a lot messier. It didn't have the shading that I would have preferred to have for it, and I tried to really just rush through it so that I can just get the general gist down. At the time of filming, right now it's Tuesday, I think, on like a random week. You don't have to know what week it is. It's a Tuesday, as far as we're concerned. The previous Friday was when I filmed this, and I actually had a date night that night. And at this point, it was like 3 p.m. or something, and we had a dinner. We had to have dinner at like 7 or 7:30, and I was like, oh god, I wanted to fill up this whole page. If this first drawing is taking me like 2 hours, then I really gotta step it up, you know? Because like, I got a date tonight, I still gotta get ready. And on that date note, I think I'll brag about my date a little bit, if you guys don't mind. I have been dating my partner Jake for almost 4 years now. We've been dating since 2019. Our anniversary is in September. And we haven't been on a movie and dinner date since 2019. The winter of 2019. We went and saw Frozen 2 because I needed to see it. And for this date, we watched The Whale. We had some gift cards that we were gifted from a family member for Christmas that we piled together so that we could afford Red Lobster and a movie. It was an amazing night. I felt so heterosexual. It was like so fun. I dressed up. I had like a red dress. I don't think I've ever worn a red dress in public, now that I think about it. Yeah, that was I had my red dress on tonight, you know how it goes. We both put makeup on, we both put our jewelry on. Jake wears earrings, and he also wore some necklaces. Actually, I don't remember if he wore a necklace. I think he did. And a pant chain. He just really decked it out for me. And we role-played as heterosexual people. Like, we made a reservation. He held the doors open for me. I tried not to trip over my heels. It was a good night. Usually when we do, like, a date night, I wouldn't say that was our first date night ever. Like, obviously not. But we do have a pandemic relationship. So, living in, Podunk, Indiana. Somebody asked in one of my other videos where I live. I live in Indiana. I always say the Midwest because I'm ashamed of living in Indiana. Let's be real. It's corn and Republicans over here. I don't know. Indiana's so beautiful. I actually really like living here. That's besides the point. I really need to focus. Honestly, I don't even remember what I was talking about. This is why I can't ever do a podcast. This is why I was scared to do a 2-hour-long talking video to you. Are you even enjoying this? Am I like scaring you guys away from finishing this video? Maybe I should be talking more about art stuff. I need a minute so that I can remember what I was talking about. Okay, yeah. I remember now. We have a pandemic relationship. For like, you know how there's like pandemic puppies or pandemic babies where they like don't know how to interact with anything or anybody? That's like us. But for our relationship, We started dating in September of 2019 after knowing each other for about a month. This was right after I came to college. I was a college freshman and he was a college senior. And this is so taboo. Honestly, if you guys are still watching 40 minutes into the video, I'm sure it's fine for me to just talk about a bunch of random shit. He was like my boss. That is, okay, I need to back up. He was my supervisor at work, and we had a very, I don't even have the words. It just sounds so bad on paper, but we've been dating for 4 years, so hopefully that can tell you it's not like a toxic relationship or anything. But we started dating about a month after we met. We had done like an orientation together for my job. I had come to college about a month early for my job that I had on campus, and we met there because he was the supervisor that had signed up to do the orientation, and we immediately hit it off the bat. And we started dating about a month after I came onto campus, and the pandemic hit that following March. So we had about 6 months or so, give or take, maybe 6 to 8 months to our relationship before the pandemic hit. And obviously, since we've been dating for 4 years, quick math, most of our relationship has been in the pandemic, right? So that plus living in, rural Indiana in the Midwest, there's nothing to do on a good day. And with the pandemic, you just have to stay at home and drink and smoke weed, So that's what we did. Like, we make our own fun. We watch movies, we do crafts. He got really big into art, and we would do art together, just great stuff like that. So we would come up with our own fun for years. And it's weird. So it's weird doing like regular couple stuff. Like, I had never even been to a bar until this year. And I turned 21 this year. Well, I guess I turned 21 last June. But I had never been, like, just going to a bar to, like, go drink with friends. And with all the way up until maybe within the past 2 months was my first time really doing that. I think most of the people watching this video are probably not even 21 yet. But all that to say, we haven't really done a lot of stuff like outside of the house together. I still haven't taken him to the zoo. We still haven't gone ice skating. Neither of us have ever gone ice skating. I haven't been roller skating in over 10 years, and we've been trying to do that for 3 years at this point. It's ridiculous. I think I've seen maybe 3 movies in the past 4 years at a movie theater. We're like homebodies. We just don't do anything. We're like 60 years old at this point. It's ridiculous. But we went on a date, and it was just amazing. We watched The Whale. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that movie, but it's the new movie with Brendan Fraser. He plays a morbidly obese person. It was a very sad movie. I don't really know if that's like a date night movie, but it's a date night movie for us. We're here for the artwork and the experience. It's an A24 movie, so you know it's going to be a piece of art. And it was a phenomenal movie. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it, but I will say, it's extremely hard to watch. It was very hard to watch. I've never seen a movie like that before. Usually, movies have the beginning, the middle, and the end, and they have a climax and a resolution. There's usually like an emotional shift with the main character where they change their mind about some pivotal aspect of the story. And this movie wasn't movie shaped. It was like, it really was a piece of art that it moves you, it disturbs you. It's very difficult to watch. I don't think I recommend it, but I recommend it with the added caution that it is not going to be like your typical movie at all. And I've seen a lot of people reviewing it that say that they didn't like it for that reason, or that it was like a fat-phobic movie, and I just don't see it that way at all. It was heartbreakingly realistic. It was brutally realistic, and that's hard to watch. It was not an easy watch, but I will say it was an amazing date night. I had so many garlic cheese biscuits from Red Lobster. Jake and I have been eating keto for about a year now to help manage my PCOS, which is a polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's kind of like a hormonal issue if you aren't familiar with it. It basically just makes me like super hairy and pimply. You know, classic women behavior. But PCOS, I manage it by taking out a lot of carbs like bread and rice. And that was all out the window with Red Lobster. You know, you just can't say no to those biscuits. And the lady was so nice. She kept giving us more biscuits and was like, she was complimenting us on our day. And we got a drink. We both got a drink. And she was just so nice. And she gave us a bunch of appetizers. And she even gave us a free dessert when we left. Like, she was like, I want you guys to really enjoy your date, so I got you guys a piece of cake. It was just, she was so sweet. She really made the night for us. It was just a fantastic night. And so, all that to say, I really had to get this study done because I had other things to do. I was not just a YouTube artist. I was also a Hoosier who had a date. So now to get back to the drawing, I'm finally getting on to the last piece. And I've noticed that each piece that I've tried to draw took me about half an hour, give or take, for each one. And honestly, I had so much more to talk about, but maybe I won't even get to it all. I feel like I keep going on tangents. I would really like to know if you guys enjoy me rambling like this. I always get a little nervous to just talk and talk and talk because I don't want to say something that like makes me look bad. I don't know how else to describe it. I want to, obviously, everybody online has a persona, and I don't want to like get too personal or too informal when you guys really haven't even built up like a relationship yet. Does that make sense? I don't want to be too much too quick, and I don't want to like leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth. But I've really enjoyed just kind of like shutting my brain off and rambling for the past, hour and a half that I've been talking. 2 hours, I don't even know. But yeah, this was my favorite study to do so far. It was a picture of a woman, I assume a mother, with a baby in a cage, and they're like sharing what seems like a sad and intimate exchange. I really enjoyed drawing this one. I don't know what it is about this piece, but it's like really messed up. It was so fun to draw though. It was the easiest one to draw. Maybe I was finally warmed up after drawing for like 3 hours. I even did a drawing warm-up before this study because I wanted to make sure that I concisely drew these things for YouTube. I never do drawing warm-ups, which is a huge art no-no for me. Always do your warm-ups. Please don't follow me on that one. But I even did a warm-up for this, and I still struggled so much with this whole study. But this last one was a lot easier for me to get out. I don't know what it was. Maybe I just really liked the piece, or something about her face was just easier for my style. It just came out a lot easier. In terms of other things to discuss, I wanted to say that YouTube has been so crazy the past few months. I think things are finally quieting down after the Sketchbook tour craze. I think that video has almost 100,000 views now, which is, I can't, it's not tangible to me. I don't even know what that means. It doesn't mean any different to me in my head than 30,000 views or 10,000 views because I cannot visualize the difference. Views and interactions are kind of like leveling off now, and I think my baseline is starting to come out now, so I have something to work from. It's so much quieter now, which is almost a good thing. I love the handful of people that keep showing up for each video that I post. I know I've been very experimental over the past month. I think aside from the Draw With Me's, every other video has been a new experiment. I'm trying to get a feel for what works and what doesn't work, what you guys might be interested in, a new topic that maybe you're not used to seeing another artist talk about or go into. It's going to be a little up and down, but I'll always try to sprinkle in some studies and drawing just so I can anchor it in that art niche for you guys. I want to make sure that it stays relevant to what you guys want to learn about. But all that to say, again, thank you so much for all of this support. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, saying thank you every video, but really, I'm so thankful. I should have started YouTube years ago. This is exactly what I've been looking for. It's just so much easier on my brain right now to do YouTube than it was to do Instagram or TikTok. I don't know what it is. There's so much more energy that goes into each specific content that I put out on YouTube as compared to like Instagram posts or TikTok posts, but overall I'm spending a lot less time online by focusing on YouTube. Each video takes a lot longer than each post would on another platform, but overall, I'm spending much less time working on this channel than I would be working on Instagram and TikTok, and that's a good thing for both of us. It means that I can get much more higher quality art out. I'm so much more stable, so I'm able to be more consistent for a longer period of time. I'm so much more fulfilled by this, and I think it shows in the interactions that I've seen between you and me online. Seems like you guys are pretty happy with the stuff that I've been making over the past 2 months, and I am too. I'm so happy to keep improving, and I always find something else that I want to do better next time. And you guys give me so many ideas. I'm just getting started. I don't know why I'm acting like I've been doing YouTube for a whole year now. Like, oh my god, just chill. But I'm really excited for this year. I think this year will be fantastic. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I did get monetized this month, and so I'm hoping that by the end of February, going into March, I'm able to make a video about the analytics and the numbers behind the past 2 months of this channel. Discussing like where they've been going since the YouTube, like the Sketchbook tour YouTube video has been kind of leveling off now. Like my baseline of what to start with, how my experience compares to other artists. I would really love to just make a video about that. But I would also love to know, like, what would you guys like for me to talk about in a video like that? Are you interested in learning about, like, the mechanics of, like, an art YouTube channel? Like, do you guys care about the topic of my experience getting started with YouTube? Or are you more interested in just keeping it to the art stuff? I do want to make a video about it, but if I could tailor it to the specific questions that you guys have or specific things that you guys would want me to focus on, please let me know. I always take a look at every single comment. Right now, I can manage looking at every single comment, and I love interacting with you guys. This week and next week, I'm working on a new print that will be at conventions, and it will obviously always be on my online shop as well, but I'm focusing on artwork for conventions in the first half of this year, and I'm going to be working on a supernatural piece. I will be making a Draw With Me video about that, but it probably won't come out until the end of the month because I haven't started the piece yet. And it's a very ambitious idea, so I think it will take me a while to make it. I also have plans on making some Legend of Zelda fan art. It is not lost on me that Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out in a couple months. I'm so fucking excited for that. Oh, excuse my language. I'm so excited for that. I have such a huge crush on Link. He is my baby boy. He's my baby girl. I love him. And I really want to have some... Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit of spoilers. I really want to have some stickers ready for conventions for Breath of the Wild getting back in. And of course I'll be making another video about that. I actually plan on making a video about how I make stickers this week, which will be coming out next Friday. So if you're watching this the day I post this video, next Friday I should have a sticker video out. Likely, the majority of you guys will be watching it way after I post a ton of other videos, so I should have that video up. But I'm really excited to share my process on making stickers, and I'm really excited for the next 2 fan art pieces that I have planned for the next month. I really hope you guys enjoy them too. Supernatural and Legend of Zelda are like 2 totally different fandoms, but they're my fandoms. I figure if you guys like my stuff, it's a little more likely that you would like those fandoms too. I hope you like them. I have a lot of good ideas with it, and I'm excited to share them. I've had a couple of ideas of videos that I would need your guys' help for, but I think I'll wait a couple months until I have a queue of videos through March of what I want to make. And once I get through that queue, I think I'll start incorporating some more interactive videos where, like, you know, I draw Euro Cs or I draw prompts based on what you guys give me, stuff like that. But I'll keep you guys updated as always. But those are like the YouTube conversation points that I really wanted to hit today. Nothing crazy, you know, the standard like art and YouTube stuff, but I love sharing everything, and I feel like I've been so quiet on Instagram really over the past 2 or 3 months of not being on Instagram and TikTok every single day. I feel like I don't really talk about the day-to-day stuff anymore, so draw with me videos like this where I get to just ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble, seemingly endlessly. It helps me more than you might think. It makes me feel a lot more connected to you guys, and hopefully you guys really enjoy listening to me ramble on. I feel like at this point you might be less annoyed with me rambling and more annoyed with me saying I ramble over and over and over again, so I'll just shut up and move on to the next thing. I'm gonna see if I can tackle the last 3 or 4 topics that I wanted to handle in this video in the last half hour. I cleaned a lot last weekend. Yes, I did write that down to talk about with you guys. I don't know. I'm proud of myself, and I feel like I should share it, okay? I didn't even get to share it with anybody, so I'm gonna share it with you, and it's gonna happen here. And if you don't like it, then just put on some other like OST music over this video and just watch the quiet, ambient, chill drawing footage. I'm not like that when I talk, okay? It's just how I make it look on camera. But I cleaned all weekend, okay? I work and I cleaned. I did both of those things this weekend. I spent over 10 hours cleaning cumulatively that weekend. I still didn't get everything done, but it was a huge difference to how it was before. And you know what? Screw it. I'm proud of myself, man. I have I'm undiagnosed with like everything, but I highly suspect I have autism and ADHD. And it is really hard for me to clean. Like, I take care of the house and the laundry, and Jake takes care of like the kitchen and all of the associated duties with that, like groceries and cooking. And it's like really hard. I think I don't know about you guys, but on my TikTok, I get a lot of cleaning videos because it's so satisfying to watch, but it's not satisfying to do for me. And I love seeing people clean their houses. And it just like between that and what I read online of like what you're supposed to have cleaned on a day-to-day and month-to-month basis, I'm not doing like any of that. I'm being like brutally honest right now. Nobody talks about it. But I will. I'll save you guys. I'll talk about it. I don't clean like ever. We have had such bad mental health over the past few years understandably with the pandemic, and it's just so hard to keep up with chores. They're just always there. And no matter how tired you are, no matter how much work you did, there's always going to be chores. Chores don't care if you had a huge assignment due this week. You're still gonna have chores, you know? And it gets so bad that I'm really happy that I was able to get it all done this weekend. Lots of like sweeping, mopping, using magic erasers on like all surfaces. And it's not even like it's gruesome in our house. It's fine. It's just like, it's like us plus our cat, plus I don't sweep very often, so it gets really dusty. And that, it adds up. So if I'm only, tidying up and doing the laundry, it's still getting dirty, even though I'm constantly cleaning. So it was just nice to like spend that energy and just clean all weekend. I'm like super exhausted from it, but it's so nice walking around the house and it's just like clean. I don't know. And it's nice to get rid of some stuff that you've had lying around. It makes it feel so much cleaner when you can donate some stuff that you don't use anymore. So yeah, I wanted to bring that up and brag about it because that's what I do in my free time. I sweep the floor. We also just had some furnace issues get resolved. It's like, I feel like I'm a 21-year-old living in like a 40-year-old's body sometimes. I should be like drinking every night at a bar with friends. I mean, most of you are probably in high school or middle school, and you'd probably expect me, a 21-year-old, to be doing those things, but I promise, I sit at home and I play Sudoku, and I drink tea. Like, it really is boring. I'm sorry, friends. I wish I had a super glamorous, like, influencer lifestyle. Or at least, like, a super glamorous college lifestyle. But I have neither of those things. I have my cat and a sketchbook. Anyways, our furnace was like having issues, and so the house was freezing for the past 2 or 3 days. And so we've had this heated blanket, and we finally got that fixed. So yeah, that's another thing we did this weekend. Yeah, I know, I spent my days off fixing the furnace. What can I say? That's just what we do. This is so horrible. I'm so sorry. It's kind of scary talking about like the regular day-to-day stuff that we do, or that I do. I feel like I would much rather talk about super glamorous things that I should be doing, like maybe traveling or visiting like some new food place or some new adventurous place, something like that. Maybe even talking about like things I did with friends, but if I'm being real, my life is so much more boring than that. I heard from a couple comments. I try to do my research, and I always ask you guys what you prefer, but I try to do my research and look at what people are asking for on other videos or what people prefer on other videos that are similar to mine. And you guys really like seeing artists as like an achievable person or like a realistic person that is pretty similar to what you do to some extent. That's kind of what I've picked up over my couple months of research, is that people really like someone who's relatable and achievable. Believe me, babies, I am relatable and achievable. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I really want to be like, I would love to be entertaining. I'm very boring. Maybe that's comforting to some of you guys. I don't know. I think I've brought it up a little bit here and there. My last video about wire hanging, I mentioned my exhibit, which is debuting this month. It's my first solo exhibit ever, and it's called Growth, or Growing, one of those two. That's the title of the exhibit. And the theme for my exhibit is ways in which I have tried to cope with my surroundings and grow and mature through different topics of my life, like the pandemic, or my identity, or specifically moving out and leaving an abusive family. I did grow up with an abusive family. It's not something that I shy away from talking about. I've been almost too open about it on social media in my life, and it's something that I think artists need to share. If it's their background, I think it's important. Believe me, if this is a situation that you're currently living with, you're not alone, and you never have been. I wish that I had been told that when I was in middle school or high school. I felt so alone living with an abusive family, and especially as an artist in the Midwest, like, nobody around me draws, nobody around me wants to draw as a career, everybody's going into college or the military. And that was my experience, just feeling alone all the time. So I do feel like people who have a community online, if they have processed that trauma and feel comfortable sharing it, they really should. It's so important to me and the ideas and the importance and values of Shaduga to share and be honest about where I come from. I did grow up with an abusive family. I moved out the day I turned 18. I lived with my aunt and my cousins until I went to college. And I've been living in dorms, and then I moved in with my partner when the pandemic hit. So I've had that background with me. And my exhibit was largely inspired by that experience of living with an abusive family and all of the consequences with identity and, like, just the way you feel about yourself, all of the consequences that result from that childhood. I've been unpacking that for years, and it hasn't been easy, especially with, I'm sure you can relate, the pandemic and other just, coming of age experiences like graduating high school, going to college, just things like that, learning how to drive, going to prom, all of those things. And my exhibit was discussing that for the first time in a professional setting. I had plenty of pieces about my relationship with the violin. I played the violin for about 10 years. I don't play the violin anymore, but it was a big part of my childhood. And I just discussed a lot of the identity issues I've had, a lot of my self-consciousness with the pandemic, and eating disorders that I've experienced in my life. Just a lot of heavy stuff like that. It's been kind of weird having an exhibit that was about those topics when a lot of the pieces that I showed were years old or discussing things that I feel like I've had more resolution with over the past few months. Specifically with moving out of an abusive household. My father was recently hospitalized with like a virus or a bacteria that it was very scary. And I hadn't really talked to my family in years, pretty much since I moved out. I've been kind of just, between moving out, being in college, and the pandemic, I've been so far away that I just didn't talk to them. I had ended my relationship with both of my parents for the time being, to protect my own boundaries and my own self health. I had chosen my mental health and my growth over the abusive environment that my parents had given me. And with this hospitalization that happened around the same time as I started my YouTube channel, I got hacked, Thanksgiving, all that happened in November. It was a pretty chaotic month for me. I reconnected with my parents for the first time in 3 or 4 years. And it was not easy, but I've had a huge reconnection with my father specifically over the past 3 months. He also has a YouTube channel, so it's kind of nice to have like another YouTube buddy to talk to about YouTube stuff, I won't share his channel on here unless he asks me to, but he also makes YouTube videos, and he's been making them way longer than I have. Like, I think I was still living with him when he was making videos. And it just, ever since his hospitalization, being able to reconnect with him and see how much he's grown over the past 4 years, it's really confusing. I don't know how I feel about it quite yet. But I used to think for so long that, well, you sit there and you beg in your head for your abusive relative to improve and choose you over whatever, I'm sure that people who know what I'm talking about when I say that. You just sit there and you ask for them to choose you one time, and it never happens. And you get to a point where you have to choose yourself for them. It's not easy. Moving out was not easy. It was probably the hardest decision I had made at the time. I have 2 younger brothers. I'm the oldest in the family. And I'm the second oldest in my entire family. And it was not easy to leave after growing up being the big sister, the leader. And to go years unpacking that and to try to unpack the guilt with that and let alone the abuse itself. And then have something like this happen where they finally admit to what they have done. Something that I think a lot of people wish they could have. It's so weird to go from being that person with the abusive family who moved out at 18 to having the privilege to say that at least one of my parents have owned up to it. I don't really know how I feel sharing that with everybody. I wanted to bring it up in this video kind of mostly as like a filler. Not really because I had anything I wanted to talk about, just because it's like nice to just like vocalize it. And it's weird to think of somebody listening to this right now, especially a stranger or somebody who's currently going through what I had been through as a kid. I don't know what to say. I didn't share the exhibit with my mother, and I didn't tell my father about the exhibit until after the reception had passed. My family they don't know where I live. I don't share that with them. I don't talk to them on the phone. I keep things on a written basis for my own needs, and I had kept my family blocked for years. It was so much better for my mental health. And I had been seeing a therapist and unpacking these things for years. So it's just, I don't know how to feel about it. It was almost easier being alone with Jake and not having any relationship with my parents at all. Because it's easier to say, like, my parents are just abusive. That's it. And they don't get me anymore. They don't get to have me. Because they had chosen anything else for 18 years. And it's so much more complicated when one of those parents says, I was abusive, and I'm sorry. But at the same time, it feels extremely privileged, because I know that that's not how it works for so many people. Especially when there's narcissism involved and abuse involved. It's so unheard of to have a parent process that, truly. I don't really know what to say about it, especially for the people who are listening to me right now, who are currently living what I lived. All I can think about right now is being 12, being 11, in 6th grade, and saying that I had 6 more years left until I could leave. Just counting down the days, every single day, until I could leave. And at one point it was 6 years, and then it was 2 years, and then it was next week, and then it was yesterday. And I still don't know what I would say to my younger self as a source of comfort. I guess there is one thing I could say. I was always told growing up that family is everything, and that's all you have. and that no matter what your friends say, no matter who you meet, they will never stay with you when you need them. So if you choose those friends and those partners over your family, when you need help the most, you will have nobody. And I don't know if anybody, I seriously hope nobody can relate to that right now, but if for any reason anybody can hear that and relate to that, or think, yeah, that's a value that my family has, I just want to tell you that it is farther from the truth than you can imagine. I was so scared to leave because I knew that if I ran out of money, I would have nothing, or I thought that I would have nothing. And I'm so happy that I listened to my gut on this one and left. I have Jake now. We've been together for 4 years now, and it's just the beginning, it seems. I had the help of my aunt and my cousins who have always supported me and helped me live with them while I was waiting for my dorm to open. There's always somebody else. I don't even want to sit here and give advice, because it's like, who asked for it even? Like, this was such a silly video, and now it's this, which is so hard to listen to. So I appreciate you guys listening and, like, pushing through for this serious topic. But that whole, like, blood is thicker than water or whatever is so not true. It couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm grateful that one of my parents has put in the effort to start that change and to realize some of their actions, but it doesn't take away from the past 21 years of my life. And it doesn't like negate the years. But I will say, to try and put a silver lining on this, for anybody who's currently living in it, it does get better, especially if you're in middle or high school. It gets so much better after high school. Oh my goodness. I lived the pandemic. The pandemic was my experience after high school. How could that be better? Just trust me when I say that it's so much better. I can't even put into words. Just the freedom and the opportunity alone is just, it's just so freeing. And there's always another option. I went into college with the assumption that education was my only way out of, like, growing up in poverty. That was my only way out, was to just be smart. And I'm not gonna lie, the focus that I had on academics helped a lot. But I'm not doing that right now. Right now I'm focusing on this, and it is so much more fulfilling for me. And it is so easy. Like, I don't think anyone talks about that. It is easy. There's so much privilege involved with my position. I live with my partner. I only work part-time, and I have the access to materials like my camera, my recording software, my phone, all of those things. With that being said, it is so much easier and more manageable than you could imagine, especially if you're growing up in a house full of people who have no idea what it's like to be an artist or to try to learn a trade. It's not like a starving position. You don't have to be working your ass off doing $30 commissions to try to be an artist. Or you don't even have to go to art school to be an artist. You don't even have to pursue art to be an artist. And you definitely don't have to pursue a degree in something that your parents want or something that you think might be, like, more financially stable, just so you can, like, put away those aspirations of being an artist or have, like, the financial back for being an artist. There is always another way. I've seen so many stories from artists who are full-time from their Etsy or who work full-time doing something totally different, like a janitorial job, and have a super successful online persona as an artist and make the most beautiful art I've ever seen. I want to represent being a part-time artist and still having success with my art. There's so much more out there. You just have to look for it, you know? So, well, that got kind of deep. I don't really know what I expected out of that last topic, but I feel optimistic about it overall. I think that no matter what this parent has learned or has said, it does not take away from my own personal effort that I've done to unpack my background. And it does not at all change the boundaries and the rules and the self-care that I have set up for myself. I don't know if that helps anybody, but my parent saying that he has finally realized some of the things that has happened does not take away from the years of me unpacking that same stuff. It does not take away from all of the hurt and all of the systems that I've set up to feel better and to do better and be better, to try and break that cycle. It doesn't take any of that away. It doesn't have to change anything. And that is so comforting to me, at least, as like a control freak who needs control over like every aspect of my life. It's comforting to me that it doesn't have to change a single thing. And it is comforting above all else to know that I have done this without that family. And I have become successful without that family. And I have a loving support system without that family. So for anybody who is right now thinking to themselves, I am where Shiduga was in high school. I am where she was in middle school, just counting down the days. You can do it. Like, this is only like my 5th video on my channel, but like, I swear you can do it. I swear you can do it. If I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, it's possible. It's possible. I'm down to the last few minutes of this video. I really enjoyed doing this Leyendecker study, and honestly, I really enjoyed talking to you guys today. I would absolutely love to know how you guys felt about this type of video. It's kind of similar to my sapphic fairy draw with me, but not really. It's not nearly, I think this is my longest video yet, and I've talked about so many different things in this video that it's honestly ridiculous. This feels like a podcast, but would love to know how you guys felt about it. I have some personal goals for my art that I want to accomplish this year. Obviously, I want to grow on YouTube. I think every person on YouTube could say that. Obviously, I want to build more of a community. I think every artist and, person can say that. I think we're well on our way to building that community. I already love the people who show up every week. Thank you so much, especially if you've gotten this far. Thank you so much. Obviously I want to grow there. I think my biggest thing that I want to improve on is anatomy this year. I really haven't had a year in my artistic journey, for lack of a better word. I hate that word, but that's the best word that comes to mind. I want to improve my anatomy. I haven't had a year yet where I just focus on anatomy. So I think this year I want to fill it with a bunch of studies. I want to try to copy a lot of artists and improve my style so that it's more unique, more defined. I want it to look so much more dynamic and 3D and just better. And I think working hard is what's going to get me there. I think YouTube is a great opportunity for me to have space for those studies in my art. If I'm already going to be making YouTube videos, I might as well get some art growth out of it, So that gives me plenty of opportunities to work on studies, copying artists like this, some drawing challenges like Mermaid, Hughvember, Inktober. If there's any other challenges like that you guys can think of that I didn't list here, I only listed like 3, let me know. Like, I always I always forget about it until it's like past, and then by the time it starts, I'm like, oh, it's too late for me to like join this challenge now. So maybe if I know about it like in advance, I can like prepare for it. I don't know. I don't like committing to challenges, but I at least do Inktober every year. I at least try that one. And I would like to try some new ones. So let me know if there's any specific challenges that you love doing every year. I would love to increase my quantity of personal and portfolio work. I've done a lot of work for social media over the past few years, and I'd like to shift to doing more personal work and portfolio work that I create content out of instead of creating content, like art for content. I would rather create art for myself and for my portfolio and then create content out of it second-handedly, if that makes sense. I would also like to increase the amount of prints that I have and products for my shop. I would love a way more cohesive look in my shop rather than just like Mod Podging all the artwork pieces that I make. I would like to have some themed drops. I'd love to know how you guys feel about like art shops and stuff like that. I love having communities for different aspects of my art, like a community of people that love seeing my art, a community of people that love watching my videos, a community of people that love supporting the shop, all that stuff. I love having communities, and those are some of my personal goals for this year. So as I finish up this study, I wanted to kind of bring the whole spread together, and I noticed that in a lot of his artwork pieces, there's kind of this like sketchy, oily, erased background. I don't really have a good word for it, but maybe if you search him up, you can see what I'm talking about. And I wanted to replicate that with my own pencil spread. So what I decided to do was to blend together a pencil background and then erase it roughly to try and give it some more a more dynamic feel, for like a lack of a better phrase. I wanted to make it more dynamic and cohesive. So I made the pencil background and then I just roughly erased like random parts of it. And then the silhouette. I really think that added a lot to the drawing, and it was a great piece. I'm so excited for the next study, but unfortunately I'll be taking a break from studies to work on some actual artwork for you guys. But as always, thank you so much for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed this video. A lot of this stuff is some pretty interesting topics, so would love to know how you felt about it. But I'll finally shut up and let you guys listen to some tunes as we finish out this piece. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.